Hey, everybody, welcome into the Raw Knuckles podcast. We'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, and share with a friend.
I guess I could have dealt with it better, but I went in, and so he just sat me down, and I'm like 15 feet away in this small little chair, and he's looking at me, and he lights up a dart. So I just stare right into his eyes, which is so awkward. But now he's smoking, and I'm looking directly into his eyes like it's a fucking Sergio Leone movie, and I'm just staring. Like, anyway, he smokes it down to the butt, looks away, he goes, "Get the fuck out of my office." I was like, "Whoa, get the fuck out of my office." And I'm like, "What?"
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down, and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious, and I was malicious, and I don't care.
He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine.
I'm alive. Terry, Ryan, awesome to see you, buddy. Good to have you on the Raw Knuckles podcast. Say hi to my partner, Tim Stapleton.
How are you, Timmy?
Stapes.
How you doing, Terry?
Not bad at all. Good to be with you guys today.
Yeah, awesome. Listen, Terry, Ryan, I'll never forget the night we met. And I was still running a little crazy, as you know. It's well documented. And we met, I think was it Cheers in Montreal?
Yeah, it was Cheers.
Yeah. And did you just get called up?
I did. Yeah.
Was that the night you fought Bob Bugner?
In my memory, it was. I was going to say, I think it was the night against Buffalo, which would have been Bugner,
Yeah. So anyway, I'll never forget it. We hit it off right away. And I always go back to when I came here to Montreal, and I knew nothing about Canada, okay? Yeah. I was coming to Montreal. I might as well have been going to Vancouver. I didn't know how far away it was or what.
Yeah.
And when I got here, all I ever heard is people making fun of Newfoundlanders.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm there, what's the joke? What's the Newfie thing? And when I finally got the opportunity to go to Newfoundland, the people are the nicest people in this country. And I'm like, what's the big joke? And, you know, I just didn't get it. But you're a Newfoundland guy. Growing up, Habs fan, Leafs fan. Talk to me.
I was a huge Habs fan, Knuckles, and I was coming in. They say your sports heroes are formed between, like, I think they say 8 and 12, 5 and 12. So I was born in 77, big Habs fan. So when you guys won the cup especially, I remember those years distinctly. I remember your stats. I was a big fan. I'm not just saying it because I'm on your show. I remember 84, 85, 85, 86. You had around 20 each year, and then like something crazy, like almost 400 penalty minutes. I remember it was stats like that I'd never even heard of before. That really, quite frankly, don't get talked about enough. Like almost 400 penalty minutes and 20 goals on a Stanley Cup winner. So that was all ingrained into my head. And as a Newfoundlander, like you said, now that you've been over here, we're big fans of original six teams, the top two being Toronto and Montreal, and it was one or the other. And I guess I just had the opportunity to go to a few Canadians games early on, and that formed my fandom.
So the Habs fan, awesome. There's a pretty big Boston fan base in Newfoundland too, no? Big connection.
Big, yeah, especially after Michael Ryder ended up winning the cup. We've only had a few cup winners, Danny Cleary, Alex Newhook, and Michael Ryder. So in recent years, even more so. But there was always, Newfoundlanders have always been big hockey fans way back, even before Confederation. Like, we only joined Canada in 1949. But if I were to talk to all my older relatives, they would all tell me about Foster Hewitt, almost stories. Like, people would sit around. It was the same deal, watch Hockey Night in Canada. My dad was born in 1952 and ended up playing pro hockey himself. And I think most people's, like, it's in families over here, so you get a lot of those original six because people have been fans for a long time. And as you know, Newfoundland is not as transient as a lot of places. There's some of these communities still the same families. The Danny Cleary, for example, is from Riverhead, a little part of Harbor Grace, which Harbor Grace is the oldest part of oldest European settled part of North America, right? 1602. John Guy and Cupid say that's how far the families go back. So they generally, a lot of the times, it's traditional within a family to cheer for the same teams. And if you go back far enough, then it's mostly original six kind of stuff.
Why don't you have that crazy? Don't Newfies have that crazy accent? You can't. They're like that movie Snatch. You
Well,
can't,
it's
like...
fun. Yeah, it's funny because the TV show I'm on now, Shoresy, calls for that. So I can switch it up and talk like this if I want to, right? Because my relatives talks like this, right? He goes ice and he drops the puck and you plays hockey like young Ryan there, look. But I can. My family talks like, and when I first moved away, there wasn't the globalization of the internet. I went to the Western Hockey League, and I left at 14 because there wasn't much opportunity here. And I wasn't embarrassed. I really wasn't. I'm still not, but I think my accent changed a little bit because people, quite frankly, couldn't understand what I was saying. The internet changed a lot with opinions. Like you said, the Newfie jokes, those are a thing. I mean, I think they just derive because we're not afraid to poke fun at ourselves. And Knuckles, think about the communities over here. A lot went to Boston, by the way, and Philadelphia, back before the border was such a thing. We go way back hundreds of years. So a lot of the families here lived, fishing was big, and people decided that they wanted to supply, rather than literally float just down south. You go out in St. John's Harbor and float, you'll be in Florida in a few days or a week.
Yeah.
So, but I think people, the people that decided to stay here were family people. They just, back then, it was all about fishing. Now we have fishing is a big industry, but it was all about fishing. So people were all along the coastline in these small little places. You got to entertain yourselves. You got to tell jokes, stories. People play instruments. My family, most of them around the Bay would say they're not musicians, yet they all perform, right? They're all performers. You go to the local Legion, have your beers, and people are playing the ugly stick, or they're, we do it with Knuckles on a lot of these hockey tournaments or the games we play, the charity games that we used to play. So, you see these communities, and I think, being so poking fun at yourself, telling stories, playing music, all these things it's kind of our evolutionary process. It's been 400 years now that a lot of people, a lot of the same families. And I think if you don't have that and you can't socialize and be a family and be together. And I think that's why a lot of times Newfoundlanders make good teammates, kind of in our blood to go out and sacrifice for each other.
Well, let's talk about that. And you brought up your dad, Terry Sr., who I had the pleasure of meeting when I visited Newfoundland. We were playing some alumni hockey. It was a lot of fun. Spent some time at your place. Got to meet your dad, your mom. Now, Dad played minor hockey, played WHA, Minnesota. Now, were you not on the scene yet when he was playing hockey? Or
I was born in 77, the tail end, the twilight of his career. My dad...
Yeah, it was just at the end,
Yeah,
right?
just at the end. So Dad... Yeah. You're right. Dad came from a family. It was, for lack of a better word, it was poor. His dad was a waiter. His mom didn't work. He's got 5 brothers and sisters. So he's from Grand Falls, Newfoundland, a little town. I don't believe that growing up... I'm not saying that they didn't appreciate the NHL. We didn't have any players there yet. Our first was Alec Faulkner right around that time. So... it just seemed so far away. It seemed like a different country almost. Newfoundland had just joined Confederation. So, but Grand Falls had a big mill. Abitibi Price ran it, and they had a lot of money, and they brought in Joe Byrne, who was a 10-year NHL vet and just retired. Really knew what he was doing. So 5 guys off my dad's Grand Falls team ended up going pro. And they all went to the OHL like within a couple of years. But Dad didn't when he got there, his goal was to get a degree. It sounds crazy now, but no one in his family had a degree, and no one had a regular job that paid that much money as a teacher would. The salaries weren't quite as much in the 70s. Well, not quite. They weren't. So, he signed with Minnesota, got his schooling paid for, got a decent bonus with the Fighting Saints after a successful few years in the OHL. Last year he had 49 goals. But he went over there he led the WHA in shorthanded goals. He played 1 year and he held the record for 6 years. He had 6. He didn't play much, but he played every penalty kill and was really proud of that. But when he went back, he tried to go back to the Minnesota North Stars. And I think they were a bit, standoffish, as you would be, because he didn't choose there at first. And I'm not sure. He says he had a good camp. But he says, in my mind, I had 1 foot out the door. I wanted to go home and teach. And they lured him out a couple of times. Kalamazoo, when I was born, I think 77, around there, lured him back. He'd been here. He'd been teaching. He had a degree, and he went back, and I think he had like 100 points. And when he didn't get up again, he just came back, and that was it. I don't think he ever put everything. When he played hard, and he's definitely a true teammate that way. But when my dad had his degree, I think, like I said, he had one foot out the door. He wanted to take it, and he just retired a few years ago after a successful 35-year teaching career. And I don't think he regrets much. And it's a good thing he retired early because he really helped me out.
What was he teaching?
He taught, if you can believe this, he taught history and French. Yeah, he taught French.
Awesome.
So he was good. It's funny when
he's totally bilingual, Terry?
Yeah, he'll tell you that it's harder for him to speak French in Quebec than it is in France. I know he'll tell you that because when you learn in school, I think the way he puts it, he says, Terry, it'd be like learning English in London, England, and then going to Newfoundland and trying to speak it. There's a lot of slang going on, so he could help, and he can speak if he goes to Quebec City. Don't get me wrong; he just has to slow it down a little bit. And he's teaching it; he doesn't really practice it that much.
Yeah,
but no, that's what he did for all those years. My dad was elated when he had his degree, and he still will tell you the story about how hockey paid for it, and it'll bring a smile to his face. So I don't think he has many regrets about it.
Well, that's awesome. And again, I was surprised at that. I didn't know he had a degree, and that's unheard of for a hockey player back in that day, right? It's unheard
back
of.
then.
So it's impressive. And let's talk about Terry Jr. and how does Terry Sr. get your nose into the game of hockey?
You know what's funny? Part of it was subconscious, like osmosis. It's not like he ever said, "Come on, you're coming to the rink, and you better be ready." It was just he came home. He retired early, played a little bit of senior hockey, and they would pay him well, and to do that back in the late 70s, early 80s. So it was part of my life. And then he started coaching. When he hung up the skates, he really did hang them up, but he started coaching, and he coached the junior Blades here, the Mount Pearl Blades. They're actually in the Hall of Fame. Got inducted a couple of years ago. They won the city championship 2 years in a row, but the second year they went undefeated, and they went on to win the provincials, and then they won the Atlantic. And you couldn't go any further at the time. So I was a product of that. I was watching it all, and my mom, if you can believe this, my mom ran minor hockey and ran the scheduling. And she would always put the junior or senior Blades, whichever team Dad was coaching, last. So say Mount Pearl minor hockey would be done on Sunday night at 9. The Blades would practice 9 to 10 or 10:30, and then he'd say, "Hey, if you want the ice, there's nobody on." The rink attendant, actually, who I'm living in his house right now, his name is Tony Fonspaulo, had a stroke a couple of years ago and needs a bit of help now, but a great friend. And he would look the other way. Fonz would say, "Yeah, no problem. I'll do my other stuff around the rink. I'll clean up. I'll look the other way. You guys can go on." So me and my buddies would have free ice time, man. So it was indirect at first. It's not like he was saying coaching me, but my buddies and I, and we won everything. Our last year minor hockey, we destroyed it. It was 10-0, 16-0. We won the provincials. It was almost out of hand, but that was it, right? If you build it, they will come. We were given free ice, and not only that, we would be around there for the last part of the practices. And it's my dad who just came back from pro, the best coach in Newfoundland. I don't mind saying at the time, brought a lot to the team. I mean, they won the Atlantics, right, undefeated, and then he started coaching senior, and senior hockey here has it's
big. It's
huge, right? In my time, we got in 3 Allen Cup finals, won a couple of them. I stopped playing last year, but it's real big. So at the time, for example, the Mount Pearl Blades, who lost, it's not like they were the best team in the league, but I was going up to watch them. They had Gordy Gallant, who played in the NHL and WHA. Mario Roberge was here in 91, 92, 92, 93, won it with the Habs. Right, the year before, he's here playing senior hockey. Bill McDougall was playing here. God, there's a bunch more.
Got a ring.
Kevin McCarthy, Kevin Morrison, a big tough guy who played right at the end of the beginning of your career, Knuckles. So it wasn't. I would go up to my local rink, just with a bag of chips and a Pepsi, and watch NHL players, and it was unique to my community, or I guess Newfoundland, the way the senior hockey works. So between that and then all that ice time, I grew early, and I went to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, and I didn't really know how good I was on a level of, on a relative level amongst the other provinces. I knew I was good around here, but again, it's Newfoundland, and we had a defeatist attitude at the time. We had no NHLers at the time. There was the Newfie jokes, which as much as it was fun, it was just some level of it was subconscious, but there was a level of like, we're going to lose. Like, you know, it was like, we're inferior.
What, when you were Pee Wee?
Yes, right?
All right, okay. So listen, I've seen you play. I've seen you play senior and NHL, all that, and I think you're a good player, really good player. You can skate,
Thanks.
control the puck, you can score goals, you can pass the puck, you're tough, all that. Now, as a Pee Wee,
Yeah.
when you went to that tournament,
Yeah.
and okay, we all have those insecurities as kids,
Yeah.
right? After that tournament's over, how did you feel you measured up to the best in basically the world, the country, and the world? Because there's teams everywhere from, right?
Knuckles.
I mean, there's a team this year, Ukraine,
Yeah.
Russia, everywhere. There's a team from everywhere.
It's the biggest minor hockey tournament in the world, man. 180 teams there that year.
Cool.
And it was great. In Mount Pearl, it was. I also came from a great system. In Mount Pearl, they put a lot back. They raise a lot of money. If you make an A or a B team, you get to go on a trip. That's it. And Newfoundland, think about it. We're isolated. You get to go on a trip away, right? You get to go away, and that's a big thing. And they pay for the gear. If you need gear in Mount Pearl, you get gear given to you. People raise the money. It's a very great minor hockey system. So we went to that. And again, I was ripping it up around here, but now the first game we played Chicoutimi, we win 8-2. I get 5. Okay, now Chicoutimi's a real team. Right?
There you go.
Now we're in International B. There's NHL 1, 2, 3, and there's International A, B, C. So my coach, there's all kinds of scouts there now to see me, and not just me. We have some other good players. A couple guys ended up playing junior, but we didn't know it at the time. And again, now we play the Toronto Red Wings. This is the Toronto Red Wings, and so we schedule, and my coach is scheduling exhibition games on the side days because this is the only chance that we get to be seen, right? There's no internet at the time.
Yeah.
No one's flying to Newfoundland to hear these stories about some guy off a boat that scored goals. We've seen it before. You're not good, right? And then, so I play the game against the Toronto Red Wings. We lose, but it's the Toronto Red Wings. We lose by 3, maybe 4, but I remember having 3. Right, whatever you did, we might have lost 7-3, but I had 3. So now people are, there's a name. Now we play a team from France, and the way it works is you play in the Colisée till you lose. So now there's an article in the paper. It says Tyrion à retenir, and I think that means a name to remember. And it's the whole front page of the sports. Now I walk into the rink. People are there with pins and everything, all collectors, and they're asking me to sign all these things. We come out. There's 10 or 12,000. There's 10 or 12,000 people there. And I realize, holy shit, they're here to see me. It doesn't click in until we go out. I'm like, a lot of people here, boys. People are down. And I'm like, shit, this is what goes on. Because I guess they're used to, they go, the year before me, my first year at the tournament, Jeff O'Neill was the big name. I remember that. So I guess I turned into this name, but I'm unowned. No one even knows what's happening. And again, it's not just me. There's players on our team. So a guy comes down to the dressing room with a card. He's from the Tri-City Americans, and he was with Chico Resch, and Chico Resch.
And what are you, 12 years old?
I'm 13. Yeah,
13.
So, and they said, we want you out to come out with the Tri-City Americans, basically. And but it was like come out to the Vancouver Super Series. There was a tournament. Now I've never thrown a hit before. I'm Pee Wee. But I'm almost like I'm 6 foot, 180. I'm dancing around people. That's the other thing. I was huge. So they asked me to go out and play this tournament in Vancouver. So I went home all happy. My dad didn't even come to the tournament, man. Like, he was coaching the Bantam team. Dad was always coaching. This particular year, he was coaching the Bantam team, and fine with that. Did not want to put pressure on me. And there was a lot of pressure as I went on. So I didn't really feel it, but, I can see how he thought that. So I was up there. I do that. I come back with a card. I go, Dad, Tri-City want me to play with Vancouver in this Super Series. And the Vancouver Super Series was a showcase for Northwest, USA, Canada, all that. So all kinds of teams there, mostly WHL scouts. So he says, well, he takes the card and he says, you know what we're going to do? This is an opportunity to take our own team out. Like, it's not like, of course, you're a blue chip prospect, but so is Danny Cleary. So is Kurt Walsh, who ended up going in the 3rd round out of Buffalo. So is Dave Penny, who ended up getting 4 years junior A scholarship. So like a bunch of us ended up being successful, but we went out there, and you know the way it works. I played the Nationals in ball hockey, baseball, soccer, and ice hockey. And each time, Newfoundland or PEI play the host the first game, so the host team can win 10-1. Everybody gets a free hot dog, and those Newfoundland love fun, right? So we come out, it's no different. We come out against Vancouver in Vancouver to open the Super Series. Sun God Arena, packed, summertime, full. Joe Sakic's dropping the puck. Became on the NHL scene. Is a star, played in the Western League, drops the puck. I'll never forget it. And another thing I'll never forget, fast forward, it's late in the game, puck shot, hits me in the back, goes in the net, 6-6. 5 seconds left, 6-6. We tie Vancouver. I know they're not expecting that. No one's expecting it. Who are these? No one even knows who anybody on our team is. Everybody else got each player down the list, right? I can go on and on. Iggy was at the tournament. Jerome, Chris Dingman, Damon Lankow, Ryan Smith, Jason Podolin. I can keep going. Each team had these bona fide junior guys that were.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they didn't even know. So we didn't win a game, but we tied 3. We lost a couple. We lost a great one to Northern Alberta 6-5. They had all those players. And then the last game, we put it up against Manitoba. We put it up. We lost 10-0, but said, fuck this. We're out here now. I'll never forget, before the final game, we went out and got drunk for the first time because we were players from all over the island that didn't really.
Oh, I love it.
We hated each other on the ice. We're like, and the coaches looked the other way. You know how we did it? We put Vaseline and pepper on our face, looked like stubble, put hats down over. We went out. We went out as a team. First time I ever went out as a team. We got up in the morning. We ate at this place, Uncle Willie's. It was a smorgasbord of. It was all day, all you can eat buffet.
Buffet. Yeah.
And we went and played Manitoba at 5:00. And we just put it up right off the bat, and the Western League scouts loved it. We put it up. The game couldn't get finished. We put it up immediately after going out. We're hungover. I had some first year battle. Anyway, we do that. So that technically was the only tournament that I'd ever played with hitting because my dad put me up onto the Bantam team for that one. I was a 77. He put me with the 76ers. Hence, we did all right. But what happened out of that? Well, a bunch of us ended up getting scouted in some way or another, and then Tri-City were there. Ron Toigu, who now owns the Vancouver Giants, and Chico Resch were at the tournament, and they took me, and we went, and I'll never forget. I'm like, you guys don't care I got in a fight? He's like, we don't care. Oh, it was great. We love it.
We want more
Did
of
you
that.
play with the stubble on your face, or did you get that off?
All that shit. It wasn't as big of a deal at the time. I think they were happy we went out as a team. To be honest.
Yeah.
So, and that was it. And then they said, look, we're gonna. If you want, we're going to take you out here. And like Chico said, he goes, the draft is when you're 14 out west. If we're not true to our word, just go back home again. And, you've lost nothing. So I was going to go to the Cambridge Winterhawks. But anyway, that was it. But when I got to Quesnel, I didn't realize I'd be playing junior. So that was quite an experience because, like I said, I played Pee-wee. I was big, but I didn't know how to handle fighting, let alone fighting. So I had to navigate my way around that first year, but it was definitely an eye-opener. And I loved where I landed. My dad got a lot of shit knuckles for that. If you were on my side, and because it could have gone either way. Like, all of a sudden there's booze in the dressing room. Let's be honest, people are smoking dope. I don't know what else they're doing. There's girls. There's sexes involved. I don't know. Like, people are getting laid, right? A lot of guys, I'm not even in high school. The next youngest on the team until Sheldon Surrey came, who's a year older than me. But we were buddies, Bantam players. But before that, like the next oldest on the team was first year out of high school. So
was that
in high school yet? Some of these guys are 20. They're 3 years out with a kid. Like, so I was playing Nintendo. I was home here egging houses and running away. Like, and now all of a sudden I got my stallmate Rob Wells Rob Bell got a kid.
Yeah, you're
like,
babysitting.
It was.
What? Now, is this Tri-City?
Mm-mm.
No, where is it?
I had to play. Tri-City brought me out there, and they told me they were going to draft me, so I had to wait till January. But is up in northern BC. It's up by Prince George. Technically central BC, but they call it northern.
Okay.
And it was junior A, but it was real tough junior A. Real tough.
Okay. So you go from there, you play that, and then you end up going to Tri-City. 92, 93.
Yeah,
and how was that being out there at that age? Leaving Newfoundland, leaving home.
Yeah,
you're out there. You're living with a billet family, I'm sure, right? And what's that like? Navigating that whole thing.
It was
as a young kid.
My first year, that year I was just speaking of, when I was 14, my dad and mom came out with me, and that was good. But they rented out the house. It got shit kicked. We got fucked with insurance. My dad took a leave of absence, so he was substituting out there. But Tri-City did help out. to give them.
Yeah.
I got the golden handshake, and it was nice when we were out there. That's when I really knew. I'd say my dad really knew. I mean, I didn't have much to do with that, but apparently they compensated us well. Well, they started to see me leading a junior A team in scoring, right? The draft.
Yeah.
So I was waiting till January for them to draft me. Now, the problem was that they had to trade up. I ended up going 3rd overall. They kind of put me into Quesnel to hide me as much as anything. Now, to answer your question, yeah, so it was hard to navigate around. I remember that first game I played, a guy cross-checked me in the face. I got in a fight really before I threw a hit in junior. And I was upset. I came back. The next week, I bathed my hands in hot sauce and fucking rubbed it in his face and kicked the shit out of him. He was fucking 6'4", 220. And I lost my virginity that night. But you know what I did? I wanted to go home. I wanted to come back to my high school, O'Donnell, and I wanted to score 6 goals a game and impress everybody. And, I remember I'd undone one bra at that time. I'd had like 3 beers with buddies. And that night in Vancouver, we went out. That was the first night I was really drunk, per se. But I wasn't ready for this. So anyway, I did that in Quesnel. I bathed my hands in hot sauce, fucking kicked the shit out of a guy, and I just looked in the mirror that morning. I'm like, you can either go home or fucking sack up. And Dad fucking came in and he was like, look, just give it a month. 1 month. 1 month, a lot can happen. If you still fucking hate it, I promise you we're on the next plane. But what I did that night that I kicked the shit out of the guy, I scored a goal as well as a fluke, but I fucking scored, and the place was full to see me, man. Like, 'cause it was like, what the fuck, a 14-year-old that never threw a hit is out playing for the Quesnel Millionaires. This doesn't make sense. But it was shit to get off the pot, man. So I beat him up, and I got off. And after the game, one of the local girls was so impressed. We went to this place it was called the 4x in the woods. People just chuck shit in the fire and drink. It's northern BC. We're listening to AC/DC. Where all of a sudden now I'm drinking. Guys are lighting up joints. I'm like, how do I navigate around this? And a girl goes, come with me. She gives me a piece of gum and said, here, come with me. That's a sex pill or something, she said.
Want some candy, little boy?
Basically what she said, and I banged her.
Yeah,
I banged her. I lost my virginity that night. And the morning I woke up, and I had a big shiner, and I just lost my virginity, and I went in for early skate, whatever. We had a game again that night. And I said, I'm never going home again. I was a hockey player then. You couldn't get me home with fucking $1 million. I was like, I'm a Quesnel millionaire. I love it. And then it was all right. So my mom and dad left. Again, I was first year Bantam, right? So my second year Bantam, I went back to Quesnel as a veteran. Weird. And 15-year-old vet in junior. But it was great because the guys took me under their and now there was some messes on that team, right? There was.
Yeah.
They really took me under their wing and they really let me tread the line. If I'd fucked up, if I'd done hard drugs or something, they would have it could have gone the other way, though. I'm sure there's lots of teams you could go to that were bad.
For sure.
But these
They
guys really,
wouldn't give a shit.
Exactly. When they saw, I fought that year. I think I had 220 minutes as a 14-year-old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I didn't win any of them, but they saw that I tried, man, and they really respected me for that. And I remember, once I did that, it was one thing to score, but scoring alone wouldn't get the respect because I'm knocking a local out of a chance. I know where I'm going. Those guys are playing because they want to go to college or the dub, and I'm taking a spot. I was very aware of that, right? So that first, there was a little bit of conflict there and tension. But once they saw that I wanted just to be a teammate, and that was it then. So mom and dad didn't have to come out the second year. And what the great thing about it is that my dad got to know Mr. Surrey, Sheldon Surrey. Surrey was also with Tri-Cities, and they didn't know what to do with him. He was 15. He was playing bantam, and Sheldon would take penalties, but he had this unreal talent. His shot was a laser beam.
He had a boomer.
It was crazy.
Boomer shot.
So he had to improve at everything else. And so Dad called Tri-Cities and convinced Tri-Cities to let Sheldon come because I needed someone close to my age. And so Sheldon was also bantam, and we rolled through that together. So, and then we went to Tri-Cities together, right? There was another guy there, Ryan Marsh. So it wasn't as much. It was more of a jump going from here to Quesnel than Quesnel to Tri-City. By the time I got to Tri-City, I went 3rd overall, and Tri-City were great because they'd take me down. Once they drafted me, they flew me down every couple of weekends. So I was just practicing with the Tri-City Americans. And then when I was 15, I think I played a game or at least 2 games. So they worked me in. By the time I got to Tri-City as a 16-year-old, regular, I'd had 2 years of junior in. I'd been practicing with the team for almost 2 years. So those nerves that might have been with some of my teammates that played, say, bantam in Alaska weren't there. It wasn't the same. I didn't have to go through that transition.
So that you played one game, 92, 93. Then you come back, Tri-City, 93, 94. And that's your first full season.
Yeah, my first game too. I fought Cale Hulse. I told everybody on the bench. No, first game. I didn't. The second game, it was the playoffs that year. I played one game of the playoffs. They threw me in. They were down 3-0, and Cale Hulse was huge lefty.
Yeah, big boy. I had him in Jersey.
What am I going to do here to get noticed, right? What am I going to do? Not that I needed to get noticed, but I hated being on the bench and not contributing to the game. And I was like, everybody's going to shit a brick if I fight the fucking toughest guy. So I did. He kicked the shit out of me. But I stood up, and when the refs came in, I got 2 in on his visor, and I fucking couldn't have been any prouder. Then they took me on. So by the time I got there at 16, and the other thing, I get there in 93, 94, and we didn't have a great team. So, which was good for me. And the guys, they went with
ice time, right? Ice time,
yeah. I mean, you want to, as a teammate, you want to have a good team, but it was fortunate that I got a chance. I played center, left wing. I killed penalties. I was on the power play as the year went. And about January or February, they just put all their chips into the young players. And it was a great year for me, even though it might not look like it on paper.
Was your dad hard on you with school, though, and stuff like that? Or was he like all in with hockey?
No, school. He wouldn't have let me go to a place without a school. I ended up getting my degree. He had that. It's funny. In 2009, I got a phone call, or maybe it was 2008, from the Habs front office. Anyway, I think it was Susan. Yeah, I won't say her last name, I suppose, but you know who it is, Knuckles. And I didn't even know anything. And one of them, anyway, they said, you only got like 6 months to register for school and get the rest of your school money. I didn't even really know that was in my contract. Between my agent and my dad, they must have worked something in, because a lot of the schooling, I went back and indirectly was paid for by the Canadians by that contract I had. But he was always, Dad wasn't really hard on me, but I would listen, though. You didn't have to tell me anything twice. I was an only child, and I really respected him. My grandfather, too, on my mom's side, I had another influence. Big-time influence. It was my grandfather. My grandfather was on the HMS Bulldog that cracked the codes in the World War II, man. He lost his arm. Wow. It got blown off. U571 is based on it. They kind of Americanized it, but he was on that. And like I said, my grandfather's British, I suppose, because he was born before 52. So he was over, and he started the local Legion here for war vets. And it was 5 seconds. It was like 5 doors up from my house, because he built the house and then he started the So there was always this camaraderie. And, I don't know, they would play their cards in the middle of the day. There were war vets that would hang out. I would argue early on, up until I was 12 or 13, they were more influential on my life. And I'm not saying that my pop was hard on me, but in the military, and there's a way of, I didn't fuck around. You guys want me to be here? I was in all of their stories. I'd sit down while they were playing cards and grab them beers or whatever, tell stories, maybe shoot on the net outside. But you didn't have to tell me anything twice. So my dad was big into school, and I really don't remember getting, I'm not trying to boast when I say this. I have nothing to go by, but I don't remember getting anything less than a 90. I took school really, really serious. You'd never think it by the way I played or acted off the ice, but I took it serious.
So Tri-City, you go there, you rip it up. 50 goals the next year, get 100 points. You end up getting drafted 8th overall in the first round by the team you love, the Montreal Canadiens. What was that like? Did you go to the draft back then? I know when I got drafted, you didn't go. I got a letter fucking 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
That was it.
I think it was just kind of starting that everybody, a lot of people went to the draft. And the draft for my year was in Edmonton. So
did you go?
Yeah, because playing in the Western League, I'm still the only Newfoundlander that I know of. I think I'd know by now that played in the Western League, at least more than one game or 2 games. And a lot of my teammates, like 14 players, again, I mentioned Surrey, Damon Lankow, and 3 of us from Tri-City ended up.
Where's Shelley from, though?
Sheldon's from Fishing Lake, really originally, up by Cold Lake. Like, it's northern Alberta, but he had been living in Edmonton for a while.
Okay.
So I would go there and spend time with him in the summers, too. So I knew Edmonton more so than any other big city, really. And I had some family there. And the Western League really supported me. Like, after... I don't know why, but when the story got out that I came from Newfoundland, and it was well out there by the time I was 16 because I'd gone to Quesnel, like I remember I remember Wade Belak having a great fight with Wade, and then we went off after, and he came over. He put his arms around me. He said, fucking rights, man, coming over all the way over here from Newfoundland. There was always this level of appreciation. I don't know. I guess I loved the Western League, and at the time it was the league I wanted to go to. And I think people appreciated that. So, when I went in Edmonton, and there was a lot of people there to support me, and, not only that, 3 guys on our team, like I said, Damon Lankow, Brian Boucher, we all went in the first round. So we all met there and had a bit of a week of, celebrating what was a long year and a long ride. So, and to do it together, that's the other thing. That year was so magical, but it could have been so many things. I mean, it was pressurized and there was a lot of interviews and in your face, but, I was 8th, Damon went 5th, Brian went 22nd. So whenever it was on me, it was on both of them. And we had each other to kind of bounce things off of and deal with it and, fly down to these places. And it became a really interesting experience that's kind of in a box, because once we all got drafted, we went our separate ways. We remained.
See you later.
Yeah, right? But it was a really unique time.
Were you expecting
that
to
not-
go top 10? Like, was that...
I was okay, but I had a decent 16-year-old year.
Yeah.
I had 33 points, I believe, 176 penalty minutes, with 10s not being counted. Most of those were fights. The Western League, they didn't count 10-minute misconducts on your stats because there was so much chaos. So I didn't know, but when I went, and I was a centerman, to be honest, and I left, like you said, as a pure scorer, really, but it was no joke. A guy really got a lot better, Damon Lankow, while I was out there, and he would I don't even know if he was if he was a prospect at all, but he worked his way onto the team. He's a year older than me. We got a late birthday. So in our draft years, it was his 3rd year junior, my 2nd, and he really was a better skater. I know that where I went in the draft, in the dub, and I'm sure they expected me to be the first line center, but Damon was just better, and I, I'm a little bit bigger. He's really feisty, and I could fight bigger guys. I could get him the puck. I'm a good passer. And, coming off the wall, I was much better than Damon. So by the time I was in my 2nd year, it was a bit, I had hit on my pride, but I had to go left wing. Now, when that happened, I don't really know. I remember maybe at the beginning of the year being rated maybe 3rd round. I was a prospect. Eyes were on me. I don't think people expected the stats. I mean, I went from like 16 goals to 50. Damon led the league in scoring, so we helped each other, but it was a symbiotic relationship. And so as the year went on, I more and more, and I scored. And it was a lockout year too, man. So it wasn't easy to get those points because, I don't know, like Darcy Tucker, Brian McCabe, Alexander Daig was in the Quebec League, Ryan Smith in our league, Rob Niedermeyer. These guys wouldn't have been back playing, right? So it was a hard time for I think scouts appreciated that we did that. Kamloops was in our division, and they won 3 out of 5 Memorial Cups. 2 of my major years in junior, they won back-to-back, 16, 17. They won the Memorial Cup. Now, they're in our division. So good, bad from the point of view that we can't get by them, but good from the point of view that everybody's coming out to see them play. Mm-hmm. So we're on display every second night, right? I'm in the best division I could possibly be in. So all of that, and hearing the scouts after, and I knew what was big. I got it at the end of the game. If it got to 10 minutes left in the game, I'd hope I'd have my point or two, but I would always grab somebody. It was just that time, and I didn't mind taking a punch. And there was always a reason. Someone said something in the paper, or someone sprayed the goalie or challenged the bench. There was always a reason. So fights were plentiful, and I knew that, shortly after, 2 years later, my first game would end up being against Eric Lindros in the Legion of Doom. That's what was big. So I knew that I got to go out there, and if I play with heart and determination, which wasn't hard with a bunch of real good friends, it helps if your teammates are your friends, right? And you actually care about them. And that was the case. I loved my teammates. I'm an only child. I'd been out there on my own now for 3 years with some of them like Sheldon, and they were, brothers to me. So it just all was almost subconscious. It couldn't have gone any better in my draft year.
So you get drafted 8.
Yeah.
You get drafted 8th overall.
Yeah.
By the Habs. Did you know the scout who watched you most for Montreal out there? Did you know who it was?
Yeah, I do now.
And who was it?
Pierre Mondu.
Okay, so Mondu. Now, I'm going to tell you, and Serge drafted you, right?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Serge Savard. And I'm going to tell you, Serge drafted you thinking you were going to be just like Knuckles. I'm going to tell you right now. And I talked to him about this, Serge.
Wow.
And that's what he was, because
that's what,
like, I could play halfway decent and I would fight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what they were expecting from you.
Well, it's funny because when they talked to me afterwards, when they asked me, I'm not, honestly, Knuckles, because I'm on your podcast, I'm not just saying this. It's not lip service. I've got, in my book, I got a Canadiens jersey on, but on the back is Nyland. Like, I was really, 2 players off your team, Knuckles, that I really liked, that weren't the main names on the team. And no offense to you there, but it was you and it was Bobby Smith. I thought Bobby Smith, watching him tip pucks in front of the net, but he really wasn't one of the main names that you would hear on the Montreal Canadiens. But in my mind, you guys, it was the most identifiable to my game, right? I'm watching you.
Yeah.
Bobby Smith made no bones about it. It's not like he would take it and go around everybody, but he went to those areas in front that were important in the Western League for me to go to. You were the same. You were like like my dad used to say, right? And just watching you, and you would go crazy. I mean, a couple of crazy brawls and stories.
Yeah.
But he would say, Terry, when I'm coaching, I'd rather get the horse back into the barn than a horse that won't leave at all, right? That I can't get out of the fucking barn. And I always took that, I love that quote because now, after all these years, my favorite teammates in whatever I was doing are that kind of way. And I'm not just kidding you, Knuckles. I knew your stats because I watched at the time. You were one of my favorite players. So it's no fluke that he said that. I remember Jacques Demers saying that too. He directly compared me to you after the draft.
Yeah, well, so you go to Habs, and all right, you're leaving Tri-City now. No more junior, coming to Montreal, the big city. You go to the draft, and you wrote the book, and I think you were a little harsh on yourself, and I guess you could say you were honest, but calling yourself a first-round bust. I mean, just to play one game and I always say this: I don't care who you are. You play one fucking game in the NHL, it's such an accomplishment. One fucking game, and listen, I'm grateful I had a great career, but I often talk to people, and they're like, Tim sometimes said it. Oh, I only played a few games. But John Scott, same thing. Fuck, you make it there. You make it there. It doesn't matter how many games you played or what you won. Just to get there is such a fucking accomplishment. I think often people, they downplay it. So anyway, I just think it's incredible what you did and going where you went, leaving Newfoundland and going all the way across the country and living on your own at a young age. It's incredible. But so that getting drafted, the expectations on you coming into Montreal. Now, this is a whole different thing. Expectations in BC playing fucking junior is one thing, but coming here, what the fuck was that like?
It was wild. To be honest with you, I didn't mind that part of it. And the people that drafted me, now you got to realize Serge Savard and Jacques Demers drafted me. Just a few months later, after Patrick Roy got upset, they got fired.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So my memory of what they first thought of me only exists within that camp. And when I went to that first camp, they were great. And I quickly realized, this was a different level. You get off the plane, there's reporters, there's a lot of questions. Everywhere you go, people recognize you even before the internet. It's a Montreal Canadiens. It's not the Nashville Predators. No offense to anybody down there, but this is a different level. I'm stopping in to Rubens for a smoked meat sandwich, and people are asking me for my autograph and what I think I'm going to do, and do I think I'm this good? And I'm going, okay, this is different level. So I get to the rink, and I remember you can't I just would think about it. I can't make myself score. I know I'm drafted because that's part of it, but I can definitely go out and go 100% and hit everything that moves and maybe getting a tilt. And if I just think about those things, maybe the goals will come. So, and that was always, I like that for that reason. Like a fight to me, it didn't just serve a purpose of momentum within a game. It often made me relax a little bit because at least I've done something. And I like to show a coach or GM or whoever got faith in me that I don't like I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do something. And if we need a fight, I want you to know that I'm going to do that. I don't care who it is. So I went through and I really had that kind of a camp. It was okay scoring wise, but I did whatever I could and I tried really hard. So Demers actually came to me towards the end of that camp and he said, look, I think it's a little premature, but you've played well enough to make the team. But he said, you're 18, you're going to go back to junior. But he said, look, I'm going to save it because our last two exhibition games are in Montreal Forum and in Maple Leaf Gardens. And I know you're a bit of a historian and both those rinks are going to be torn down soon. I told them, they knew I used to go to the game there. My first game at camp, I was in inter squad. I would go 5 hours early just to walk around and see the walls and see where Rocket Richard got dressed. And so they knew that I was into that. So anyway, he gave me a couple games. He goes, you can either miss your you can either go back to junior or miss your home opener in the first game in Spokane and play this Friday and Saturday with us. I was like, sure. So I played the last 2 exhibition games, and I know what they meant by that because it was in the actual rinks and it was full, and the stars were playing, so they really wanted to measure me as much, see if I wanted to do it, and reward me for a good camp. So I did. I fought Steve Leach and beat him right in front of the Canadiens bench, and then I scored. And then the next night, they played me in Toronto, and I fought Ty Domi. And so when I was getting on that plane to go back to junior, I thought I'd left things in. It couldn't have been any better. I played 2 games, 2 fights. One of them was Ty Domi, one of the toughest in the league. And I did okay for an 18-year-old that didn't know how to throw left. And, so, I went back, and I was thrilled with where things were at that particular point.
So you get on the Habs, you play a few games, you end up you and Freddie at the beginning, right?
Yeah, when 96, 97 was a weird year. So the year I just explained, I did go back to junior. And then in 96, 97, Mario Tremblay came in. Reggie was there. And they said, we'd rather you practice here. We can't send you to the American League. That's what we'd love to do. But in junior, it's just going to be people trying to prove themselves, and your team is in last place. So they were like, maybe you can get traded at the deadline, which was like in February, but you'll practice with us all year. So when at 96, 97, I was 19. I played 4 games with the Habs, but I was there from like June until February. Like I was there a long time.
Yeah.
And so
do you think your career would have been longer in Montreal and longer in the NHL if Serge Savard never got fired in Demers that year?
That's a great question, and I don't know if anybody recently has even asked me that. I think yes.
Because that new, like, come on, Réjean, I love him, but Réjean just wasn't the hockey guy that Serge was.
Yeah.
Serge was a great manager of people. He knew talent. He knew how to work. Yeah. He knew how to deal with players. And I think your whole career could have been totally different if he did not get fired by Mr. Corey.
Yeah, I did feel more protected with those guys. And, when I went back and I was their pick, I was talking to them on the phone. I had a lot of interaction. I felt like I was just ready to break through. And I had no reason not to feel like that. Now, which isn't, I'll get into it in a minute because when I ran into Michel Tyrion, when I finally could go into the AHL, that was different. I got nothing. I went to a game with Reggie last month. He got me alumni ticket. Like, I got nothing against him. Yeah. I think he made.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I got nothing against him either.
I would have played me, but he didn't. But I don't hold it against him. It's a hockey decision. It's tough to sit here and go. But, time passes. You got to take it on the chin. Like, that happened. And if he had one knock on me, Reggie, he would tell you it was skating, and I did need to improve that. Now, they didn't make the playoffs, and I was watching guys like Darcy Tucker and my friends, Craig Conroy, Valerie Bure, Brad Brown, Aaron Ashram. They all go to other teams, and they all seem to be doing well. I was rookie of the year, so I'm going in the A. I mean, and so again, I'm not. I would have played me, but it's nothing against Reggie at all. I totally understand where he was coming from.
No,
I was on a 2.
Yeah, it's not for that, though. Yeah. I was just curious if you, with Serge, if you thought, and I happen to think it would have gone to a different trajectory only because I know Serge so well, and I know how he is with hockey players. He fucking knows how to handle them. He knows how to deal with them. And Christ, there was so many times I've seen guys have issues or where some GMs would just fucking get rid of you or see you later. He fucking had his finger on the pulse, and that's why
he did. Knuckles, and not only that, there was a blueprint. Like, they talked to me, and it was like, okay, come in, we're going to get you these 2 exhibition games when you're 18. When you're 19, you might have a chance. By the time you're 20, you're going to be rolling, and this is what we want. And then they picked Aaron Ashram, and for a while there, they said, the plan for me. I remember Serge saying it. He goes, "You're a third liner now." He said, we get you up there and bump you up, and we'll see where your skill takes you. But he said, like, right now, you're there. Like you said, you and Darcy Tucker play together, and and then when Aaron Asham came in, it was thought that it was me, Asham, Tucker. I remember that.
What an awesome line.
Yeah, it would have been great.
Come on.
That's what I mean with Serge. I felt protected. It's not like Reggie ever said, "Go fuck yourself," but months would go by, and I was like, "Did they even know who I am?" You know.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, you call the whole bust or first round. I mean, you're putting up the points in the AHL, and you're just like not getting. I'm just like, why aren't you getting called up 8th overall? I don't know. I don't see the bust.
Honestly, it's a weird thing. If you look, and so what ends up happening there, you see, I was a bit of a hothead, but I by that I mean with Michel Tyrion. But people think because of my personality, it was fiery. No, it was never like that. I didn't like miss curfew. I went out a lot with the boys. I wasn't a guy to come in and complain. I was happy that year. I was 19. I played 4 games. People were like, "Oh man!" Like I think 4 or 5. I sat on the bench and it was the grocery stick. But people would say like that's a bad thing. I didn't care. I realized I was being groomed. But when I got to Fredericton, Michel Tyrion took the heart and soul. Now again, I want to preface this by saying, I completely forgive him. He was a rookie coach. I was a rookie player. When I actually talked to Michel Tyrion about things unrelated to hockey, he was a completely normal guy that I think for him, it was a bit of an act too. It was tactic. But I'll tell you an example. I go there, and now, the year before again, 96, 97, I'm on the Canadiens, play 4 games. I go back to junior. I do well in Red Deer. I was coming off a concussion. I got over it. But in Red Deer, I didn't get in any fights because, they were like, okay, you had a bit of a concussion. Like, that's part of the reason I went to Red Deer, because they were stacked with tough guys. So I played 3 rounds of playoffs, and I set the record. I had 18 goals in 16 games. It was the 3-round record. And I think it was Sakic that I broke. And it was just, everything was going right. I had every reason to think.
24 points in 16 games. And, I mean, please.
Right? Yeah, and that was the playoffs. I think in the regular season, I had 35 points in 15 games.
You did.
16 regular seasons. And it was like everything was going in. So, again, I'm like, well, the only reason I was even not sent down this year is because I couldn't go to the A. I did what they wanted me to in the NHL, and I did learn a lot in the NHL practicing that year. And I went back and I fucking ripped it up. So I thought there was a chance that I was going to come in, but now I get it. There was guys that, I don't know, someone who was in my position, Jonas Hoagland, Patrick Poulin, they're on one ways. I get it now. But when I got sent down, and I did. I mean, I couldn't hurt from a year in the A, but Mike, so I call him Mike. Michel calls me in. I'm not playing much the first little bit. Now I feel far removed, and there's no communication going on. And I could have done that. I guess I could have picked up the phone and called Reggie or even gone in Mike's office. But he calls me in like 6 or 7 games in for a meeting. So I go in, and he's sitting behind a desk, and he always had his seat like a few inches elevated than yours. Like it was always Napoleon Bonaparte. Like some
go figure.
Yeah. He just had some kind of, he would want to have mental dominance at all times. Maybe a form of insecurity. I don't really know, man. But at the time, and I guess I could have dealt with it better, but I went in, and so he just sat me down, and I'm like 15 feet away in this small little chair, and he's looking at me, and he lights up a dart. And he starts smoking it, and I'm like, what am I going to say? And I open it
because he's nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous as fuck, man. Like, so I'm going to speak, and then I say, no, I'm not going to speak. So then he just keeps smoking. So now I'm like, what does he want? And I'm starting to get angry because I'm like, this is a fucking, he's just waiting. He's just going to let this go and not say anything. So I just stare right into his eyes, like right into his eyes, which is so awkward. But now he's smoking, and I'm looking directly into his eyes like it's a fucking Sergio Leone movie, and I'm just staring. Like, anyway, he smokes it down to the butt, looks away. He goes, "Get the fuck out of my office." I was like, "Whoa, get the fuck out of my office!" And I'm like, "What?" And I came out. Now, some guys on our team had already played for him in Granby and Junior. I think Francis Bouillon, Marc Bocage, maybe Sylvain Blouin. There was a few in the room. And so they were like, no, sometimes he does that. Don't worry. I'm like, don't worry. What the fuck are you talking about? I want to put
don't worry.
Bed. I don't want to have anxiety about this. What the fuck is this guy doing? Next game, plays me a lot. Goal, 3 assists. My first big game in pro. I kid you not. I can see it now. I come in after. He goes, Terry, calls me in. Calls my parents in front of me from his phone. Now I'm like, this is just a memory. It's over. Yeah, Terry's going to be all right, right? My dad's pretty pumped. My mom. Hang up the phone. Next game, the very next game, my first shift is with 30 seconds left. And he taps me and says, go fight Jeff Weir. Like I don't know when to fight, first of all. And Jeff Weir is a big guy, but he doesn't want to fight me. He's terrified. And I had to go out there and do it. Sorry, Jeff, I'm coming. And I fucking kicked the shit out of him. And then I was like, what am I doing? And it was just Mike wanting his mental dominance, right? The next game, I remember taking my helmet. I didn't know how to deal with this. Again, I should have just gone in and spoke with him. So it's as much me. But I took my helmet and I fucking threw it off the glass. He told me to fight again. I said, you think I don't know when to fight? Like, you think that I really don't know it?
Yeah, that sucks.
Then I found out that he wasn't even a big fighter.
No,
that's how it always is.
This is what I'm
listen, Terry. Fucking same thing. I heard this fucking tough guy thing. I don't even remember him at training camp, but he played in Longueuil.
Yeah.
Played Chicoutimi, then Longueuil. He was with the Ramparts too in junior. And then he came to Montreal's training camp. He ended up, that was 83, 84. I'm like, this guy was a fucking tough guy. Where the fuck was he in training camp when I was there? Yeah, hello? I honestly, I would have, believe me, I would have ran into him because every fucking training camp I had to fight someone.
Yeah, you would have known.
He certainly didn't show up to the fucking dance.
I found that out.
That sucks.
It was disheartening. I'm like, the guy that's trying to make me. And, I had all this energy to give and passion, and I'd never run into this. The Western League, my coaches, I could always smooth it out by going out and trying hard, of course, we were all a bit rough around the edges. There was never anything, I was never arrested or anything bad. I guess a couple times, half hour late for curfew. All things that go out, make a few hits, fight Wade Belak, and we're good, right? We're good.
Yeah.
But it was weird. The whole year went by, and it was always like, I remember getting benched for celebrating a goal. And I was just like, now I got to think. So I was on the ice trying to navigate around all these fucking crazy fucking tough guys. It was a tough division. And, my first year as a Canadians pick playing a role on one of their teams and to navigate. But the thing is, when I say this, people think that, well, fuck Tyrion. When I say Michel Tyrion, because that's the thing, I have every memory in Montreal is fantastic. I wish I'd played longer, but with Reggie and him, you see what I mean? It was just a decision. I don't hold it again. But down there, I felt like it was honestly, like looking back, I don't want to be a wuss and say like mental abuse because I just should.
Not a wuss.
I should have dealt with it in a different way, though. I could have gone in, but that was it.
But you're fucking still a young kid.
This is great what you're saying because I played for Mike Keenan and he did fucking similar shit.
Okay.
And it's like you're fucking like it's almost like you lose trust. You're like, I don't know what happens if I score a hat trick today. I don't know. I might be benched tomorrow.
I don't know. Yeah, and then you can't get up about anything.
Yeah.
So the whole year you're on pins and needles, and I'm like, and like 3/4 of the way through, I remember looking at my teammate Matt Higgins, and he's like, "But Terry, that's what he wants. He wants you like that. Like that's it." And not only that, Matt goes,
"I don't like it."
and we're at the end of the year, and I remember him saying this to me. And he said, not only that, you just had a great year. So it wasn't like I was rookie of the year down there. That year I had 21 goals.
Crazy.
256 minutes. I had 34 fights.
Yeah.
It's not like he couldn't. I just wish he'd drummed that up in a different way. If Mike had called me in and just been honest, I don't mind getting shit on. My coaches in the Western, they were super critical. Crack the whip, but it was all logic. It was on the surface, right? This is what you need to fucking do. You better do it. But with Mike, I didn't know. You know. He was calling my parents.
Hey,
the next minute,
Mike. I heard he was that way with Subban too, and it's funny. The story I heard about in junior, and pretty good information, is he was coaching junior, and the team sucked. They were in the playoffs or something. They stopped at a Saint Hubert on the way home after the game. They were heading back on the bus, and they brought all the food on the bus. They get it on there. And he had it up the front of the bus, and he got driving. He didn't let anybody come up and get food yet. It sat there. He stopped at the next rest area and fucking got up. He stood up, got up, grabbed the fucking food and put it all in the fucking trash, and then drove home. Yeah. That's the story I heard. Now, really? You fucking did that?
It's like, why?
I know.
Punishment.
First of all,
I don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me one bit. First of all, he would smoke a lot on the bus, not just like smoke a lot. So Freddie to St. John is like an hour and change. And I remember him and we would have meetings. Go to Martin Gendron was the captain. Sylvain Blouin played for him. I'm like, how long are we going to take this? Like he's just being an asshole now. That's just being ignorant, right? Okay, you might say he's trying to get into our kitchen. I think he's ignorant. He's enjoying a cigarette because he doesn't want to can't wait till we stop. I think he's just being a cunt.
Right.
So anyway, all that goes on. The next year, that was the thing. The next year, I couldn't understand when I got sent down, but I'm down there and I'm playing with Asham in the minors. So it was all right. He's my best friend in hockey. So, and Scott King. So we have a decent year. I believe 55 games. I think I had 40 something points. I actually, per capita, had probably a little bit.
43 points.
Yeah, there you go.
You had.
And we're down there. Like, I don't know why, if you look up, that we didn't get up more. But anyway, and it was the end of that season. Okay, so we were playing St. John Flames in the playoffs, and they had a player, Eric Sharon. Eric Sharon ended up playing a little bit in the NHL. He was a world junior before that. Was a big left-handed shot defenseman and a good guy. He was their captain by all accounts. He's a good guy and a good player. But he had missed maybe 3 months with a kidney problem. I can't remember what it was, but it was a kidney problem. So we played them. It was, say, game, I don't know, one of the games in the playoffs in the first round that we played against St. John. And first game in St. John. And he'd been waiting 3 or 4 months to come back. So when he skates around in warm-up, the place is going mad. It's like Eric Sharon night. Like, people are, it's unreal that he's back playing again. Our captain's here. Anyway, during the anthem, Tyrion comes down in my ear and says, fight him first shift. And I'm going,
oh,
whoa.
fuck off. I hate that.
Yeah, and I'm going, and he
Fuck
goes,
you.
it'll take all the wind out of their sail. And I'm going, he's being up, but I go, Mike, I'm going to be the biggest asshole. And that's not me. I'll fight. Fucking Rocky Thompson was playing there. I'll fight him now.
Right.
I'll fight him right now. Fucking hands behind my back if you want. But I'm not fighting Eric, who just lost 50 pounds, man. And, I don't know. He's probably 185, playing normally.
Go ragdoll him, right?
Yeah. Right. And all these people are here to see him. He overcame a fucking disease or whatever he did. And, I'm not going to go do that. Anyway, he got so in my kitchen, I did do it. And I went on the ice, and I grabbed him in the reps camp. I remember saying, like, go down or whatever it was. I was livid. I came in the room after, guys. I took off my shit, and I threw it. I said, no more. And, in between these stories, there's a lot of other tension going on. Yeah. I said, no more. And, they say, don't throw your jersey on the ground. It was so traumatizing. Yeah. I threw my jersey on the ground, and I walked on the Canadiens' crest, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm a super Habs fan. 5 years ago, you would fucking told me this. Like, I was so fucking upset. But I acted impulsively. Reggie called me because the summertime came, and I said, no, I'm not going back. Trade me. And now I'm seeing, like, Darcy Tucker, who got traded. Now he's becoming a star. He's not just in the league. He was my roommate. Yeah. He's becoming a star. Asham goes and just comes into his own. All these, like I said, Brad Brown, Valerie Bure, Craig Conroy, Jim Campbell. They're all playing. I started in Freddie with them. I've had a good couple of years there. So I just said no, and I just didn't have it. I remember Reggie calling. I said, it's not you. I promise you it's not you. I really appreciate it. He said, you're going to be in Quebec, which he thought this was a good thing, Reggie. He said, you're going to be in Quebec, but you're going to be our first call-up. Now, they had a record number of injuries, so I would have. But I even said to Reggie, I go, you're saying this before camp even starts. So I said, I'm down there, and I just don't feel I'm appreciated, and I don't feel it from you, Mr. Houle. I really don't like Michel Tyrion, but I didn't tell him any stories. I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk out of school. Yeah, but that's
fucking rat shit. A coach who does that's a.
I know now. I know.
I
was young and I was trying to live by some code that didn't exist. But and a lot of coach, like you just said, Tim, Keenan, Babcock. I hear a lot of coaches were like that. So I wonder if Mike was just trying, because sometimes, like, there was a side of me that almost felt bad for him. I remember him calling me to the front of the bus, and he knew I liked the Beatles. So he there was an article in the paper. I think maybe they were releasing the anthology or something. And he goes, the Beatles. He called Paul McCartney Paul McCarthy. So I knew he didn't know them much, but he was just trying to get a conversation going. He was awkward about it. I think in the end he was socially awkward. And that's maybe why he smoked so much and why he was so threatening. But when you read, like, there was a couple times that I was like, he's just trying to be my friend in this nerdy way, but it just never worked, and I just wanted out. I ended up. That's what happened. I went to Dallas, and I was down there and fucking busted my high ankle sprain, and I had egg.
And that was it.
I was like, fuck. But my time in Montreal was fucking awesome, and like you said, Knuckles, I call the book that Tales of a First Round Nothing. I guess my favorite book growing up was Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, and it was about a kid that was kind of misunderstood. That's where that came from, and I'm like, everybody else is saying it anyway, and I'd rather just tell the story myself, but I know what
Well, you did. But anyway, I couldn't agree more with the coaching thing. I always said if I had a coach that told me to go fight, I'd tell him to go fuck himself. I'd grab him by the fucking tie and say, you go do it. Now, I had one time, Jean Perron made the inference in a meeting in the room in Hartford. He went around the room and ripped on everybody, and he got to me. He said, "When's the last time you had a fight?" I mean, what the fuck do you know about fighting in front of everybody? And he certainly didn't like that, and that's when I got traded. It cost me, but I stayed true to myself, and that for me was bigger than fucking doing what shithead told me to do. I fucking hate guys who do that. When I coached in the East Coast Hockey League, I had a couple of tough guys. I never ever fucking tapped them. Lemaire, the best coach, he would take me off the ice in situations at home when they put someone out against me, right?
Yeah.
And I'm there, what are you fucking doing? Leave me out there. And he said, no, you fight too much. And, he said, I know you're going to do it when you do it. I'm never going to tell you, but sometime I don't want you to. And he had respect for me. He was the best coach I ever had.
It is.
So,
that's the thing.
No respect.
That's the thing. It's the no respect. I'm like, I can sit here in my head as a player and know that I can go out there and do something. And I might even think I can do it better than that guy that's on the power play. But really, it's subjective. It's my opinion. I got to work towards that. But when you start coming down and telling me when to do my job like that, like I know when to go out there and drop my gloves and fight a person, you fucking idiot. And it's just like, and I never gave him any reason not to think
it's degrading.
I had 34 fights that year. I mean, was my timing off? Like, I mean, every fucking game, every second game. But anyway.
It's degrading. Hey, listen,
it's degrading.
We can talk.
No,
I can fucking talk.
Yeah, this is amazing. I used to like. There's times I wish death on Keenan, and then like 2 days later, I'd be like, I kind of like the guy. Like he was like, I didn't know what the fuck to do.
It was something of that era, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I guess they thought maybe that was the best way to.
And I was like 34. Like I was like the last year of my career. I was like, I thought I'm a veteran guy here. I didn't know what the fuck to do, man. Like, nuts.
Oh, that's funny.
Like we could go on another fucking 3 hours talking about hockey, but we definitely have to move on to what's going on now in your life. Now, listen, you played senior hockey afterwards, Allen Cup, all that. You just love hockey. You fucking love hockey, and you have fun playing hockey. I know that. I can see it. When we played them alumni games, you were fucking having fun. You love
it.
And that's a great thing. So you retire from the game, you get away from the game. And how I know you did stand-up comedy once, right?
Yeah.
You did that for a little bit. You're not a fucking afraid to try anything, which I love. And now here you are. You got on the Republic of Doyle there. You did some small roles. And now, look, Letterkenny, fucking Shoresy, like, fuck, you're everywhere. It's so awesome. I think it's so great to see. How did you catch that fucking acting bug?
Well, timing is very important. And while I guess the big publicized thing with Montreal and, my career, I guess, for lack of it was always interesting as a roller coaster ride. But you could argue that maybe the timing didn't work in my advantage in a couple of those situations. But when it comes to acting, the timing 2 or 3 times has been lightning in a bottle. It's like a lottery winner. The only reason I even started working, I was crew for 5 years. My buddy Alan Hocko played the lead character, and he wrote and he produced Republic of Doyle, which was big here in Canada from about 2010 to 2014 or 15. And all over the world, really. I mean, you can still get reruns, and it's popular here and there and platforms all over. So, most successful show that's ever been in Newfoundland to that point. So, I really, honestly, I graduated. I went to school. I didn't know what I was going to do. My degree ended up being in folklore and English. Now, I was writing that book. So, the first one, Tales of a First Round Nothing. So, folklore is like storytelling. I didn't even realize when I went in to see the academic advisor, I'm like, how many courses do I need? She said, well, you need 40. You've got 43. But I was just taking them haphazardly. I didn't really know. I was just taking what why would I do chemistry when I can do the history of popular music, right? So the folklore is like, because I was taking these courses, like I took a full course on singer-songwriters, superstitions in sports, right? Those are actual subjects in folklore. And then English, right? The grammar and everything. So that was helping me with, the actual writing of the book. So both, I think, subconsciously, is while I was writing a book, is why I got a folklore degree. And you can go on and be a teacher, and I knew that that's probably something I wanted to do. So, but once I got my BA and I got accepted for education, it's a 2-year program, and I need to start putting money on the table. I made some bad investments and had, like I said, my buddy died in a car accident, BJ Young, and I was raising his son. And Penny Lane had just come onto the scene accidentally, but she was there. So I needed to make some money. So Hawko told me, like, we were at this hockey tournament, and he said, I got that show, which was just starting. But he said, if I can get you a job on set. But he said, it's going to be jump how high. You're going to have to swallow your pride. And sometimes it's like parking cars in the morning. It's cleaning the fucking toilets. Like, it's whatever. But it's going to be pretty lucrative. And it's hard work while you're doing it. And it is, man. Locations, production assistant on set. I did that for 4 full years. Parts of a 5th. Hard work. 15 hours at least. Sometimes 18. But
a good paycheck.
Good paycheck, and got me in a union on the film set. And right around that time, Newfoundland, which we kind of fucked ourselves. Well, I shouldn't say ourselves, but for many reasons, we lost the fishery in the 90s. So we've been looking for reasons. Yeah. Tourism's a big thing now, and film. So once they had a studio built for that, then we gave a tax credit, and then they built a few studios. Now we got a few shows going on here now to this point. So it was a good timing. But to go back, I'm on set. I'm a crew. So a couple times, the stunt guy's there, James Binkley, and I'm going, Binks, I fought Domi at center ice. I can't fucking do a stunt. These people coming in. So I was in his ear, and he used to come over and go, Terry, it's timing, not so much balls, it's timing. And so anyway, I got in there, though. One time, a flight didn't get in. And one of these guys that was going to get, he was going to play Hawko, my buddy, and the gig was, car comes, and he kind of rolls over the car, so put some padding on, jump up, roll over the hood, roll off the back of the car. Kind of looks harder than it is, but it was a stunt. So I did it. I got on there, and then they had me in another scene later in the year in a pool scene. I broke a pool cue over a guy's back. So now I've done a couple stunts, and I'm kind of getting my foot in the door, but that was more bucket list, I think, than everybody.
How about when you get your throat cut?
But this is what happens now. So the same show, the show ends, okay? Republic of Doyle. Now, the same production crew, it's Take the Shot Productions, hockey guys, Take the Shot. And they bring Frontier comes over, and that's got Jason Momoa. Now, in between, so Doyle ends in, say, May, Frontier's starting in October. So the summer, we do a movie here called Maudie. Ethan Hawke is in it. So I'm crew for Maudie, again, jump how high, but the thing is, I'm kind of, without getting into a huge, make the story longer, I'm almost working directly.
Jumping too high?
Yeah,
jumping too high.
Yeah. So we go out. I'm with Ethan Hawke in the summertime. Again, this is just in between because it's one little movie, and now we're going on to do Frontier. But as I'm talking to him, he used to go to games, and I remember meeting him at Bonanotte because Kiefer Sutherland went to a lot of games. He's Kiefer's buddy, and I'm like, I had a book there. My book had just come out, and I could have got fired for this, but I sent him over. I went in the green room and threw a book on his seat. And anyway, he ends up, so he comes to me. We're in Trinity out by Clarenville where you were. And there's and I was crew that had to get everything ready in the morning, like the lowest form of crew. Like I'm the fucking guy that got to set shit up in the morning before anybody else is even up. But in this small little community, there's no Wi-Fi and everything. And I need to be there and the actors need to be there because they're going on first. So I'm there with the actors. So I'm sitting on this side of a cliff, I swear to God, and it's the end of a long, long day, and it's maybe September, maybe early October, but it's really hot out. I remember it's real late in the year, but it's hot. And I'm sitting there, and I got a bottle of Jack, and I got half a joint, and I'm drinking, and I'm looking at the sun go down, and wouldn't you know it, I hear footsteps behind me, and it's Ethan Hawke, and he sits right here, and I get talking with him, and he goes, I read your book. And I said, fine. He goes, well, there's no Wi-Fi here. I can't talk to anybody. And he goes, you gave it to me, and so it was good timing. But he said, you should get involved. You can clearly write. You're doing this. You're working hard down there. I got respect for that. But he goes, you've gone through a lot. And, that's usually acting. I bet you can do a lot of acting without even really trying because you've been through so much. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about, but I'm like, sure. I took him out for some beers on George Street when we got back. One night with him. It's not like I'm his best buddy, but we had a great night. And he goes, I really recommend it. He made a call, and then I made a call to the people that were auditioning for Frontier, and I got in. I shouldn't have been allowed because I'm not in the union, but I went in to do the audition for Frontier. Now, this is the show that Momoa's going to come over and be in. It's loosely based on the fur/everything trade of the late 1700s when the British redcoats are coming over. And, it's chaos over here. European settlers had just come over. There's indigenous. There's fight for territory. It's all that story around the Hudson's Bay, right? So I'm going and I auditioned for a British cook, and I'm fucking horrible. I'm horrible. But there's a camera there, and then there's Danielle Irvine, who's the casting director, and the Paul Wilson, and he's the guy I'm reading with. He's my read partner. But I'm not the camera I'm thinking is just recording me. But the thing is, it's going straight back, and they're looking at it live. I understand it, if not just a few second delay in Hollywood. The producers actually are out in L.A., right? Because it was take the shot, but they teamed with Momoa's group. So this was this was the biggest thing that we've ever had come here. So anyway, I take my tooth out to take a sip of coffee and do a second crack at the shitty fucking job I did at the British Cook. 3 pages of lines of it. I just wasn't good. So I'm taking it out, and she goes, wait. Right? And then I guess Brad Payton came through, who was the director. The director who lives in Hollywood now. Now think of this. He lives in Hollywood. He left at 18 years old. Now he's probably 40 at this point, 45. He is from Gander. That year, I'm playing for the Gander Flyers, and I just got Aaron Asham in to play. And he's in the he's like, what? And he goes, well, she spoke through him like, why did you take out your tooth? Are you Hawko's buddy with, the hockey player? I'm like, yeah. And it gets to the point, I'm like, I'm actually playing in Gander now. That's how Aaron Asham got in there. Because he told me, he goes, Asham's playing. Yeah. He goes, no fucking way. I go, yeah. So, and this guy's in fucking Hollywood. And again, Momoa's team is all out there. I don't know what's going on. So Danielle goes, this is good. This is good. I start to do the British Cook again. They're like, no. So I'm getting good vibes, but they're like, no, just go. And she goes, I'll be in touch real soon. So they're thinking, and I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. Before I'm home, Danielle calls me. She goes, come out to my house right now. I went out. She goes, if you can cry, and you got to really bring yourself there, but if you can do it, and you can look, and Brad goes, I want blood, snot, tears. I want it, but this is the very first seed in Frontier, and we're going out on a fucking limb. You're not even an actor. But we think you can do it. If you can do it now for Danielle, you'll have to do it on camera, and that can be our teaser. It's all good. You're in. We don't have to fly somebody in. It's a stunt, but it's an easy stunt. It's just this and go down. Only a stunt because it's a union thing. At no point was I really at risk of getting hurt. So I come in on crew. So I come in. I haven't met Momoa yet, but I know he's read my book. He's from Des Moines, Iowa, and is a big hockey fan. And it's wild because I'd worked with this crew for so long now, and it's really rare that you go from locations to being like a main or an actor at all, really. I mean, it's just, I'm cleaning toilets the week before. So I come in, and now, but it's 4 years that I've done this, so I know everybody. So behind the cameras, there's 3 cameras, camera A, B, and C. A's looking right at me. My hands are behind my back. I got to beg for my life. Please have mercy. Right. And behind the cameras, though, are all the crew. So behind me, the cameras are looking at, looks really somber. It's 3 TPs with the fire going, me and 2 other British soldiers. Half the reason I got it is no tooth, right? It helps really beat up. So it's hard to reproduce that in hair and makeup. So that's it. But behind the cameras, I'm looking at all my buddies, and they're like, yeah, T-Bone, how the fuck did you get here? And I'm going, yeah, can't wait. Momoa comes up during rehearsal. He comes up, and I haven't met him yet because I'm like this. And his knife hits me, and he goes, oh, sorry, my knife hit you in the back. I said, I thought you were just happy to see me. Everybody's laughing. And then Brad Payton goes, guys, shut the fuck up, the director. And he goes, now come down. Or he goes, Terry, I'm coming down. He comes in. He gets next to my ear and he says, I'm not sure you understand how important this is. This is I love that you're funny and his camaraderie. It's not the time for that. He said, you need to cry. I need you rage. He goes, you're not saying please have mercy because you're begging for your life. You're begging that he kills you quick. You're like you're not begging to keep staying alive. You just want to be you don't want to be disemboweled in front of everybody and eaten by a coyote. You want to die right now. So he goes like, have I been clear? I go, yeah. I'm just fucking around. I'm trying to break the tension. So he goes, okay, how much time do you need? And I said, I need like 30 seconds. And he said, well, and I didn't really know that because I'm not a fucking actor. But he goes, okay. He goes, everybody, shut up. 2 minutes. He goes, you got 2 minutes. So I just stood there and I could hear the fire cackling. Everybody's fucking relying on me. And somewhere behind me is Jason Momoa, who I haven't really met yet. I saw it, looked in his eye, and I'm the main guy. And the guys next to me are actors. So I know I've been given a shot. I think I got, I think everybody knows the story I just told you. And I think they want to give me a shot, right? So I started thinking about the worst possible thing, right? Like my daughter and the things that could happen.
What made you cry? How'd you make yourself cry?
Tyrion.
You know what got me there? What got me there was I just
the first bra he couldn't get off.
It was
back in the
what it was. It was overwhelming. I started to think about like everything that I'd been through, and it was almost like a second shot. I'm like, this is second shot at the big time. The NHL is one thing. This is real acting now. Like this is not fucking around in someone's indie thing in their backyard short film. This is Jason Momoa. Like, and I just started to think of like, what are the odds I was going to get back? And so many people are in my corner. And it was almost like it was a flood of emotion that I can't really explain. Good, bad, and ugly. Well, all of it.
But you made it happen.
It was emotion. Yeah. And I knew I was getting there. Once I did it once, which is what you see on the camera. It's right again. It's 5 seconds into the first episode. But because once they get it, then I've done my job. Now I can kind of walk through it because they're getting other. You end up doing the shot a bunch, but once they get my big time reaction, right now we got it. And what we did, we put a prosthetic neck. It was rubber though, but my mom had a real knife, and it was like a Mr. Freezy full of fake blood is the best way I can explain it. And it was sitting under the rubber. But it was kind of scary too, because if he was off, which he was, but I mean, there was a chance.
Hit you, juggler.
So yeah. So anyway, and that happened, and then Momoa afterwards, we went out for beers. I taught him to play hockey on Sundays with my buddy, the chef Jeremy Charles.
Did he put the skates on and get out there?
Put the skates on. He'd worn rollerblades before, so he actually could skate and he could shoot it like normal, like his center of gravity is normal, or hard shot, but he couldn't stop. But I taught him, and then over, it just became, I was hanging out with him, and then his personal assistant ended up going back to California. Her dad was sick, I think, or something. So he just looked at me and said, "You want to be my personal assistant for a few months?" I was like, "Sure." He goes, "I got to pay somebody. It might as well be you." So not only that, it was
That's
how high
awesome.
with him. But he's like, he used to make me come to set, and I used to have a briefcase, and the briefcase would be lined, and we'd put ice and Guinness in it. Most of what I had for him, like we'd be off, and he goes, "How good is it to be alive?" And we'd drink a Guinness. And he go back on set, and it was just great. And he was not that he wasn't serious. He was just he's like, always have some Guinness, always have my schedule, and know where we're going to go to dinner that night. I was like, okay. So he took me to Europe. He put me in season 3 of Frontier like a few times, just with a different.
That's
gig.
awesome.
Put me in a couple of movies and introduced me to a bunch of stunt people. So that's how it started. Then I was in more stunts than anything, and sometimes you're a stunt double, but sometimes, like in episode I think 9 of Hudson and Rex. Then I get back here. Now there's a few things going on: Surreal Estate, Hudson and Rex, Caught, Little Dog, and I got a chance in all of them because I'm a local actor now. And there's more and more of us here now because it's an industry. And why fly somebody in to do the same job? So the timing couldn't have been any better. And I was telling this story on a podcast maybe 3 years ago. And that's 4 years ago, I guess. And Jared Kiso was listening from Letterkenny. And honestly, I hung up the phone from doing the podcast. And 2 hours later, I'm driving down the road and the phone rang. And it was casting from Letterkenny. Can you be up here? Send us an audition. And I was led to believe that it was my role to lose. But just send us an audition and it's yours. And I did it. I did it on Letterkenny. When they said they were going to have me back, I had no idea it was for Shoresy. That was season 8 of Letterkenny. Season 9, I didn't go back. I thought it was just an idea that had gone. I met Jared. He was nice. I only went up and did Letterkenny for the couple days. But then 2 years ago around now, I got the call. There's a show we're doing
for Shoresy.
And I knew his character in Letterkenny. I didn't really know where they were going with it. And I didn't know until I got there that I was one of the main characters, but it worked out.
So Shorzy, right? How many episodes are there a season?
There's 6. So we did the first one. There's 6, and now, as I see it, we're going to do season 2. In a month, I leave. We're going to do it March, April, May. Will be another.
Where do you do that?
Sudbury, for the most part.
Sudbury. So you're up there, Sudbury. How long did it take to do those 6 episodes?
We go real fast. It took about 6 weeks.
Okay.
For me to do.
So a week an episode, huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's fast. Like the way we go through it. Just knowing what I know, they're brilliant at Letterkenny and Shorzy because they get the most out of it. It's, I've worked on films that are, I did Star Trek in Ontario, so you're going to get the, the best possible funding and situation, the most, it's 5-star all the way at Star Trek. Well, I'm not saying that we're any less professional, but definitely have a smaller budget, but they're brilliant in Letterkenny. And we often do we'll read over 20 pages in a row, and that's, most shows I work on, like a long scene would be 4, 5, 6 pages. We do them frequently in Shorzy that are 20 plus. But it's great because we just sit there and learn the lines together. We're in a hockey dressing room. We got our gear on. We're telling stories. I won't say we ad-lib. I wouldn't really insult the writers because it's so good by doing that. But I get to do it a little bit because my job.
You're a noof.
Ted Hitchcock.
You got the
Ted
noof.
Hitchcock in the show, and the whole point of my dialogue is that a lot of it you don't understand. So I talks like this, right? I answers the questions like this. I talks like this, and Hitch is, you barely understands them half the time, right? So I kind of Newfoundlandese their lines that they already have written, but for the most part, but a lot of it is on the spot. Like we won't just try to just ad lib, but as we're there, Jarrett will generate a lot of ideas. Like we'll come in. That's why it's meta reality because we're all hockey players, and he went out of his way to do that. I've since been told nobody wanted that. Bell didn't want it. None of them. He said, "Trust me. I know a couple of hockey players that are in the acting union. I'm one of them." And he said, "There's a couple more, and the lines I'm going to give them, they're going to be brilliant at." And the way he did it, he's brilliant at it. So. But we'll often be there. We go in and put our gear on like you do. We go out for a skate, right, while the cameras are getting ring some up. Jordan Nolan will be telling us about one of his 3 Stanley Cups. I mean, there's never any shortage of what things to talk about. So by the time we go to shoot, some of those chirps might be from a story that Jordan just told. But we don't really ad-lib on the spot. Now,
do you aspire to maybe one day, other than Shorzy, get a movie role and do something like that? Because listen, I look at Wahlberg, right?
Yep.
Come from Boston. He had the Boston accent. It's gone. They work with you on that shit. I always say I could never get rid of my accent. Park, car, Harvard.
Yeah.
I can't say my fucking R's. Do you think if someone could sit and work with you like a voice articulation coach, you could shed not only the Newfie accent, the fucking Canadian accent?
You know what? It's a great question, Knuckles. So I just finished a movie. Now, when we shot it, it was called Made to Kill, but I think they got to change. It's a Lifetime movie. It's going to be on real soon. I think they got to change the name because there's another movie name now with that. But stay tuned to my Instagram. It's going to be out there soon. And that's exactly, this place takes place in New England. And there was a voice coach on set, and they were like, we can't go Newfoundland with this. But and they gave me 4 or 5 different characters to learn from. So I just finished a movie that I attempted what you just said. Hopefully it works out. It felt good, but you never really know till it's post-production and you see it on camera. But yeah, I do get the odd opportunity. I got an agent in downtown Toronto, Ambition Talent, and they've been, I get a lot of auditions and stuff now. So who knows? And I know that it was my living anyway. It was more crew than anything. And I would get the odd acting day or stunt day over here. But now Shorzy's opened up that door that I'm getting called to do it in other places. And that opens up a lot of opportunities. Again, knock on wood. But so far, I've been extremely busy.
There you go, Nux. Here's your actor for your part. And give us your Boston accent, Terry. Let's hear it.
Oh, fuck. I couldn't do it.
Park the car in Harvard Yard.
Park the car at Harvard. I was just down speaking of Wahlberg, his production team, I just did like an ultimate fighting on ice, a hockey thing. I don't know if you.
Yeah.
I met a bunch of his friends. I don't know if it was his production team, but definitely his friend. I mean, they had him on the horn there. I think him and Domi might be in on something. Whatever it was.
Yeah, they're buddies. Yeah.
So I went down. These guys, I went down. It was ultimate fighting. Like the NHL alumni called me and said they want you to give you X amount of dollars to go down and get in this hockey fight. You know, we had gloves on, but it was a real hockey fight. It's been years, man. So it was wild. 4 rounds. A minute per round. I can't tell you who won.
And who do you fight?
No, I see
guy
this.
from fucking Boston, man.
Yeah.
I fought a local from Boston. He was tough too. At least 10 years younger. But
On the ice.
Yeah.
On the ice with the gloves on.
Gloves on. No.
Boxing gloves?
Ultimate fighting gloves, not boxing.
Okay.
Fighting gloves. If your helmet pops off, time stops. If your knee hits the ground, time stops. So, and the jerseys were really loose, so it just ended up being this for fucking 4 minutes, man. It was wild. After the first round, can't really tell you who wins. You'll see it real soon. It's coming out soon. After the first round, I couldn't fucking believe it because this is what happened, okay? We get there. I don't really know. When they first called me to do it, I thought it was a commercial, and they wanted me to do it because I knew how to. I mean, there's now, having been in this far in the stunts, I know where to put the cameras. I know how to do the stunts, right, to have the best. Like you put the camera behind your head on an angle, and you can miss me by a foot, and still, if the timing's right. So I thought it was that. That's what I thought. But about 3 days before, they're calling me, like, "Do you have your own doctor?" I'm like, "What the fuck do I need a doctor for?" That's what happened. So I got down there, and I went out to do this, and so I'm not prepared at all. I don't even have shoulder pads with me. Okay, so I get down there, and my opponent is in the room,
shadow boxing.
He's putting the fucking tape on. And I'm going, and this was where my mistake came. I'm thinking, I'm not putting tape on my hands and my wrists. Like, I never did that before. Why do I need it now? But, so we get ready, and we go out, and we go to do our thing. The fucking smoke show, the round lady comes out, round one, everything. I come, and I'm thinking, at the very least, I know how to fight. So if he starts hammering me, I'll just pull a Darren Langdon and tie him up and fucking, just get through. But the jerseys are so fucking elastic, and I don't have shoulder pads like an idiot, right? So I can't play that because like I'm coming out. So it's really punch and be punched, or there's no other route. But he's hitting me, and like I got a story in my second book. The top 3 times I've ever been punched. One was Ryan Vandenbush, one was Mark Morrow, and one was Trevor Gillies. There's fights. I'm not saying Doby doesn't have as good of a punch, but he just didn't hit me with one like that. I mean, straight on, like where you see you get sick to your stomach and take a breath. That's the 3 times. And this guy hit me off the bat, and each punch was like that. And I'm going, what the fuck? What have I lost? What?
Cut.
I'm in good shape. Yeah, cut. I'm going, it's after the round. I'm over there. If it had ended then, he would have fucking kicked the shit out of me. They were like, "Do you want it to stop? Do you want it to stop?" I'm over there, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like. And I realized, I'm like, man, I'm going to let everybody down. This show, my fucking daughter, I'm going to let all the old school guys down, right? All the old school guys that I fought are going to go like, I got to at least go out and have a draw here. They're expecting me to win, so I can't quit. But I'm like, but I can because I've been paid. I can quit if I want. And I'm like, and I went, trainer who they got assigned. I don't have a guy. I don't have a corner guy. I don't have a doctor, right? Buddy got everything. But anyway. They come over in my corner, and my corner guys who have been assigned to me, Buddy just brought up YouTube, and he showed me like a couple of my fights, and he's like, "You got to do this." I'm like, "I'm just taking punches there the whole time." He goes, "Yeah, but that's what you got to do. Like, you're good at that." So then I realize it, and I'm like, "But his punches are hurting so much." He goes, and the guy goes, "That's why we told you to put the fucking, it's like cement, man. He's got his hand taped like a boxer." And I was like, Jesus Christ. Not only that, I forgot my mouth guard, and so their mouth guard that they got me wouldn't fit. They got one at like the fucking sports craft store, and it's nothing. So I got knives in my mouth. Boom! I'm like, Jesus, I'm feeling that one. And the guy got a mouth guard in, and he's got his hands like they're cement. So I did it.
Terry.
I stood back and did it for 4 fucking rounds. I couldn't. It was just.
God bless you.
Amazing.
God bless you. Now. What's the setting? You're on the ice. You got a ring. They got a ring on they put a ring on the ice.
They put a ring on the.
And you're on ice, and you go to your corner.
Ring. It's a really, really loose ring. Like I can't even remember seeing the outskirts of it because we put it in the corner. So the corner of the rink is, I guess, naturally one side of the ring. Then the cameras are over here.
Yeah.
The people, and there's a border. Yeah, it's big, but it's a ring. Yeah.
Was it Cambridge?
Maybe that.
Canton? Canton? Canton.
That's
there you go. All right.
It was in Canton, in the rink in Canton. So we went out there.
Right near the Blue Hills.
That's exactly where we were.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. That's crazy.
So man, I went through it. I wish I could tell you because it actually ended up working out pretty good for both of us. But what they're doing is that it was sponsored by UFC. I can send you some pics. But what they're doing is that the next UFC, they're going to, Mark's production team is going to present this before the fight, and they hope that in future it
takes
work
off
with UFC.
Well, it's like the slap thing, right? UFC, the slap championship now, that fucking crazy thing. I could not imagine.
I can't either.
Like, I remember back when I retired, I was like right around the 90s, someone had one of them things where you're going to go out and fight a guy. They're going to have this fucking championship. They'll pay you so much. You fight one guy, you beat him, you go on the next round.
Yeah.
They asked me to do it. I'm there. What are you out of here? Fuck, think I'm out of my fucking mind? I would never.
Knowing what I know now, it's going to take a little bit more money if they want to get me back. And it was a long hockey, I didn't ever time hockey fights.
4 minutes.
But when they would go, you fight, like those are long fights. Like
a minute's fucking long.
Was like a minute or two. Yeah. 4 minutes. And again, if your helmet pops off or you go down, time stops. So this was very.
And you got to start her up again.
You just got to go at it, man. I bet you we punched each other 100 times. Yeah.
Is there like an audience? Is there like fans?
Yeah, you'll see. It's
what's the name of it? What's the name?
This was called. If you go back on my Instagram, I posted what I could without giving anything away in October, right around October, and so Ultimate Hockey Fighting. So it's UHF under the guy under UFC, and what it was, I only had to fight the once. Because they told me, what they wanted was a guy who actually played pro, preferably NHL, that had been in NHL fights, and so they could promote it. So mine, they went through, they did go through a tournament, whatever they did, the day before I got there. And, they had that local Boston, whatever, but this particular guy and I were like the main event that they're using for the commercial to try to promote this. I didn't see the fights. Maybe they didn't have some toe-to-toe slugfest. But I guarantee you, they're happy with it. We were in a toe-to-toe fight for 4 minutes. It was crazy.
Oh God!
Yeah, man.
Funny.
Halfway through, going do I have a concussion or did I just take punches this long? And then afterwards, I remember we had beers afterwards, and I'm like, I still don't really know if I'm all right. I figured it out
what just happened
on the way back. Well, it's funny. Even speaking of that, I can do it. I had a couple of concussions, but I always got them from having my head down and getting hit from punches. Again, I want to knock on wood. I'll say this, and then Friday I'll go out and get in a bar fight and get killed. But I'm saying that the punches were always fine. I never. It was never really a problem. If anything, it's a problem if you get a black eye and you can't see out of it. But I never got any head trauma from punches, and I guess to this day. So hopefully it stays like that. But it wasn't really.
So Tim,
what?
Tim, Newfoundland, right? It's a beautiful place. Everybody always gives it to Newfies. I've been everywhere over there. St. Anthony, Deer Lake. I've been to Gander. I've been to Fogo Island, Marystown, all over. I friggin' love Newfoundland. St. Anthony's in the peninsula is awesome, right? It's incredible.
Love it. You've been over here a lot for all the. You've been over here probably the most for all the alumni guys, man.
But Tim, off the coast of Newfoundland, there's a little island called Saint Pierre Miquelon. It is actually part of France. It's 8 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Yeah. It is part of the French Republic. It's France.
Yeah, and
it's so funny. But I've been there too, and it's a neat little village, Saint Pierre Miquelon.
It's fucking wild. Oh, sorry, I cut you off. Were you going to speak, Tim?
No, I'm just interested.
It's wild.
I've been there. I dated a Newfie. She was a little crazy, but
understandable.
Have you kissed the card? And
I
you
did.
do the
Yeah.
screech?
Yeah. I did the
screech?
screech. Yeah. Because when I played in Toronto, we had the Marlies. We had a preseason tournament there.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I know the preseason tournament. I know I'm very aware of your career. I didn't realize you were with the Marlies at that point. So St. Pierre-Miquelon, yeah, it's wild. It's France. If you go there, the buildings, the materials, the good everything, the goods and services, all France. And so once in a while, we'll go over to play like local guys will get together. They have no competition. They really want it. So we'll go over and take like a senior team over and play. They'll sell it out, pay for everything all weekend. Like it's a really small population. But what was I going to say? Oh, Peaky Blinders, the new season of Peaky Blinders.
They did it there.
Fine. It's the first time I've ever seen it referred to in any pop culture or even on many maps. Sometimes people pass right over it on the map, but it's right there in Peaky because it was like Peaky Blinders.
When he goes in the bar, right?
Yes.
When he walks in the bar.
Walks in because they are smuggling a bunch of shit there. It's perfect for it. It's a little tiny island next to a big island with all kinds of traffic, cargo going by. So you know, historically, St. Pierre-Miquelon was used. There have been many uses, but the smugglers wouldn't be an exaggeration. And Peaky Blinders actually brings it in the forefront. The first time that I've ever really seen. But normally, if I say that, no one knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, isn't the time change like an hour and a half? Or something? Isn't like right? Like there's like an extra 30 minutes or something.
Yeah,
hour and 27 minutes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, here's the deal. We could keep going all day. Like, fuck, it's almost dinner time. If we keep going, it'll be fucking bedtime.
Well, if you guys,
and I could go all day with you. There's no question about it. Tim and I, we do a thing sometimes with our guests, either or. So either or. So we're gonna do it with you. We'll bang it out. And I'll start. Blondes or brunettes?
Either or for sure. Yeah.
No, which one? Which one?
Yeah,
you have to pick one.
Either.
Oh, either
you
or.
have to pick one.
Okay, either or.
That I can't honestly answer that. It's
either or is not an answer. I like it though. That was clever.
Either or is not an answer.
He's like,
you have to pick one.
Anyone, redheads, anything. Yeah.
Blonde or brunette?
Well, I've been married to 2 blondes. I'm not anymore, but I mean, so I guess subconsciously there's something there.
All right. This is a lightning round now. Go ahead.
Acting or hockey?
Jesus. Hockey always. Hockey always.
Hockey. All right. Shovel snow or rake leaves?
Rake leaves.
Scoring a goal or getting in a fight?
Where's this happening? Is this
in the NHL?
Oh, fuck. I guess I could only go from experience, and I like getting in a fight. But I can't deny that that's what I did when I was there, and I have a great memory of it.
All right. Batman or Superman?
Batman, for sure.
Spitting chiclets or raw knuckles?
Raw knuckles.
There we go. All right. Over easy or scramble?
Over easy every time with a bit of toast. Soak it up.
Timmy Hortons or Starbucks?
Tim Hortons all the way.
Molson or Labatt?
That's a tricky one because Molson treated me so good in Montreal, but my friends here in Newfoundland have always been Labatt's guys. I grew up with them. So I got to say right now, Labatt.
Red wine or white wine?
Red.
Boxes or ball huggers?
Ball huggers. Oh, yeah, I'm almost exclusively banana hammocks.
I'm out, Nux.
All right. Here's one. Ribeye or New York sirloin?
New York sirloin. Probably my most ordered steak.
Dogs or people?
These are good.
Oh, boy. People.
And the last one. You got the munchies. Pizza or Chinese food?
If I've got the munchies, pizza every time.
Okay, good stuff. Hey, Terry, Ryan, I got to tell you, that was awesome. Thank you for your time. It was so much fun. It's always fun when people get on here and tell stories. You're a great storyteller, and consider you a good friend. I appreciate your time for sure. It was a lot of fun.
Well, honestly, of all the podcasts, it's a privilege to do this one. Honestly, Knuckles, like I said, your heroes are formed when you're, in that age, 8 to 12. And I was a huge Canadiens fan. I was always a big Knuckles fan. It's almost like two different Knuckles, because now you're my buddy. I don't really think of it like that.
Yeah, right.
Fuck, that was a while ago too. When we were playing even those games, remember in St. John, some alumni games in like the mid 2000s. I guess it's been 15 or 16 years now. And like I said, I met you in the late 90s, so I've known you now more of my life than I didn't really. So, but thanks a lot. And Tim, respect your career, and
you too.
Stay in touch. And I know you guys are doing well. Knuckles, really, I don't want to comment on everything that went down. I don't agree with it. I think you got fucked over. Let's leave it at that. But unless you want to talk about it,
yeah, I can talk about it. I don't care.
I just thought, for someone that's so liked and so passionate, and it's not often that you have a player that's so embraced by the fans, that goes on and is a spokesperson, and then it all comes to an end because of some bullshit. It's like I said to Andrew Shaw. He was on my podcast yesterday. The fans love Andrew Shaw. Like, they loved you. Maybe not the same, but you know what I mean? He's that kind of player. And, so you should get into podcasting or something, Andrew, because people want to hear what you have to say. Knuckles, people hang on every word. Mm-hmm. And when you were working there in Montreal, I would listen all the time. I would tune in because it was Knuckles and Island. And now a lot of people take a bullet, man, and they don't know what to do. But you've come back fucking tenfold. And I wish you guys both luck. And I know
that whole thing is crazy, right? I didn't want to get that vaccination for personal health reasons. God. And they wanted nothing to do with. They didn't want to hear it from me, And now the shit that's coming out now, it doesn't look so fucking bad.
It's just, I got it because I was going to do Shores.
And I don't judge anybody for getting it either.
I'm like that. That's what
you get it. You get it.
Even be a topic if someone doesn't want. I found that bizarre. I really did, and we could unpack that for 3 days.
They put you in a corner, though. They put you in a corner. Yeah, is what they did.
Yeah, that's not right. And I think most people, like I said, I not only would I not judge anybody, but it's beyond that. It's forcing somebody.
Yep.
Like, if you don't do this,
I'll take.
If you don't put this inside you, that should be even a chocolate bar. I shouldn't have to have a fucking Baby Ruth if I don't want to. Right? I just find that fucking insane. But anyway, it's done. You've rebounded, and if you ever need anything else from me, just let me know. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
The funny thing, and I'll just end with this. They had a 20-year anniversary of that station. I won't even say the name. And they fucking wanted me to come to that.
Really?
Can you believe it? Can you fucking believe it? They thought I was going to come there and
with a mask.
Irony of it, right? Yeah. Like, they don't want me in the building to do a show, but I can come to the fucking anniversary and say hi to the guy who fucking fired me.
That's a lot of balls.
Idiots.
Yeah.
And again, they wanted you, I'm assuming, because you articulate your thoughts well, but the kind of history that you've got with the main team there, like your presence with the Montreal Canadiens, but the reason that they got rid of you was exactly why they wanted you. You stand up for yourself. You stand up for your teammates and what you think is right. I mean, it's so hypocritical, and I feel really. I can't say I don't pity or anything, but I felt for you there. I was like, fuck, man. Everybody was paying attention. And here you are, a guy that go out and wear your heart on your sleeve and stick up for so many people, and then for that not to happen the other way around, bit of a slap in the face, if I must say so much.
That's life. Hey, awesome to see you. Stay in touch, and I wish you nothing but the best, Terry.